So Ayan Chowdhury from another award-winning company, Cadence Design Systems. He's the engineering director. And Ayan, before Arnfinn takes over, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and about what I know what Cadence does because I had prior experience with it, but not everybody does. So tell us.
We do have a couple. Sorry, we do have a couple slides for that too, Al, if you'd like.
Yeah, that's fine.
Introduce me.
So you're going to put the slides up, man, or should I just go ahead?
Sure, I'll go ahead and put the slides up then.
We can probably, yeah, okay, all right.
Great. Can you see my screen here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I see my support website, not the slides though.
Oh, you just see the support website, not the slides. Interesting. All right, let me go stop sharing. I'm so used to Zoom, and in here you have the opportunity to share the different areas. So let me just apologize for that. I typically can just show the whole, oh, here we go, entire screen. All right, can you see my screen now?
Not yet.
Very strange. Well, while I'm getting this up, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Actually, yeah, maybe I'll just start. So, yeah, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, as the time zones be. So my name is Ayan. I've been with Cadence about 25 years now in various roles. So I'm in our parlance, I'm the business owner for our online support website, as well as the support processes that run across different geographies. And I work. Our website and the whole processes is work very closely with our development partners in IT. And that's in a very quick summary of what we do and what it's about. Cadence specifically as a company is into the business of electronic design automation. So essentially, I mean, that's one of the businesses that we are in. And so what we do is we provide software to the entire electronics world, right? So everybody who's doing anything in electronics is probably consuming one or more of our softwares. So there are multiple verticals in it. And, given the nature of our business, some very strong entitlement rules, data separation, IP controls, etc., are part of our, overall set of things that we have to do, even when we are doing, apparently simple customer support.
Okay, thank you. So Arnfinn, you're having technical difficulties, huh?
Yeah, unfortunately, it says that I need permission to share my screen. That screen recording, I have to go into security and privacy, screen recording, which.
Yeah, you're probably on a Mac.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you go under, it should open you up right in that area under privacy and security.
Okay.
And then you should see Microsoft Teams in there under screen sharing or screen recording.
All right, just try to get this going real quick. Apologize.
The unfortunate thing is it's going to make you log out and log back in.
Yep, that's what it's saying right now. All right, I will. Yeah, we definitely have the screen. Actually, what Ayan, you have the presentation also. Do you want to see if you can share?
Let me check. Hang on.
Because unfortunately, it is asking me to quit and reopen.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Okay.
So Arnfinn, I'll introduce you while we're getting the screen up. Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
So this is Arnfinn Osterfjord, someone I call a friend and have known for quite a while, going back a couple of companies, but he's now, let's see, you have a new title. It's Chief Learning Officer for the Consortium for Surface Innovation. He basically runs the KCS Academy, right, Arnfinn? So you want to tell them a little bit more, maybe about the consortium, about yourself?
Sure. Sure. So I am Arnfinn Alsefjord and do head up the learning and certification arm of the Consortium for Service Innovation, and as well as the tool and service provider verifications. We have a KCS verified line program, so I run that. And then we're well known for KCS, but our members have created so many other bodies of work to drive service excellence. So like intelligent swarming and predictive customer self-healing, customer engagement and such. And I've been a judge for over 10 years. And it's really a pleasure being a judge because I get to review the top sites in the world and learn about their underlying strategy and the programs and how they measure success. So in addition to viewing the portal, as the other judges said, I really enjoy looking at the essays because that really gives the context of their portal. And just as Phil mentioned, that's something that I'll view that first, then I'll look at their portal, then I'll view their essay again, and then I'll look at the portal, because really the portal is geared towards their audience and their goals. So it's very, very helpful for that. So in addition to my current role in the past, so I've been a judge for like over 10 years, and then I was fortunate to be a past winner when I was at Oracle. And we actually just submitted our site to get feedback from all the great judges, and we're fortunate to win also. And I've been leading digital experience teams for quite a while, and specifically portal, community forums, and knowledge, because those are so synergistic. And as we've all talked about, knowledge is the critical enabler to any support site success. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, thanks, Arnfinn. So, Jan, can you
So, yeah, let me see if this comes up. Couldn't share your content, something went wrong, trying again. Okay, so let me try again. And
hopefully you're on a PC then?
yes. So let me know if you're able to see the
Great.
screen.
Well, yeah, we got it.
Yeah, and let me go from the current slide then. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll just click through then.
We've done our introduction, so we can actually go to, I think, slide 5.
Okay. This one, yeah.
Yep. So as I mentioned, looking at the essay is so critical. And so Cadence has 3 main goals: to maximize customer onboarding, case deflection, and as we talked about, we also like to reframe it as kind of self-service success, success by channel and such, and customer retention. And as we all know, a well-trained customer realizes the most value from your product or service, and they also have fewer issues. So it was really nice to see that customer onboarding was a critical goal for them. And then certainly that if they're realizing the most value, they also tend to be the most loyal. So it was great to see these 3 goals, because again, they're very synergistic. If you focus on learning and ensuring that they know how to best use your product, again, you're going to have those fewer issues, which is going to drive fewer cases, and then happier customers again are much more loyal. So really appreciate that approach. And then also just their focus on a simple to use site. We see many sites that have a tremendous amount of functionality on them, but it isn't as simple to use. And so Cadence's focus on the simplicity of the site, and really their focus on the customer and the customer journey and their personas and such. And they do quite a bit of behind the scenes to look at their journey mapping and when they were successful, when they weren't. And Alan, do you want to add any more color to your goals and approach?
only to tell you that we're not seeing the slide at the moment.
Oh, I can see it from.
Yeah, no, I can see it.
Huh. Well, I'm not seeing it. I don't know why. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But,
so
no,
I guess to your question, and this kind of covers the large parts of what we intend to do, or what's the overall philosophy of what we plan to do, or what we're doing actually.
Okay. Keep going.
All right, so next slide.
Yeah, next slide. Okay, yeah.
So a high level goal for many companies to look at is viewing the ratio of their total revenue or number of users to their support costs, which cases is often the biggest cost. So I actually had the privilege of seeing Cadence's company confidential view of this. And what was just incredible is their customer growth of users has grown much, much more than this. And while at the same time, they actually reduced the number of cases as a percentage. So it was just outstanding. And as they focused on that, they actually have three main drivers when we had the conversation. Their focus on training, certainly their customers had fewer issues. And that big focus on learning, they were able to, they actually really look at all the issues their customers are having, and they have a really nice feedback loop into development so they can quickly improve their products. And then their portal, both with their self-service capabilities and case submission flow, and we're going to get into that, helped dramatically in reducing that. In fact, the next slide, I'd love Ian to talk about your case submission flow and specifically how you were able to achieve this tremendous achievement. If you want to go to your next slide.
Yeah, sure. So, so this one, actually, one of our key targets has been, because of the industry that we are in, right? Unlike many other high volume businesses, our support people are mostly masters and PhDs in EE. And therefore, both the cost of resourcing as well as the fact that we need to ensure that their time is best used on the most significant of cases. One of the primary business drivers for us has been the case deflection. So what we did in our setup is first was, of course, when you come to our website, it's a search first site, right? So we expect a lot of the user scenarios to be on the homepage itself. You look for your information and you find your answer, and that's that, right? But what we also found over time is that when the user starts the journey, right, typically in the homepage or when they're seeking knowledge and all that, though the search terms are much fewer, but when they want to create a case, they typically provide a much larger description. So what we did is we built an explicit case query engine with its own machine learning and various other algorithms, by which when the user begins to enter his query terms, we start to give real-time search results. And what we found is over time, and then obviously there is this whole feedback loop of what's working, what's not working, where the customer is reading and finding the answers versus he's reading the stuff but still going ahead and creating the case and all that. So all of that process was built, and significant of data analytics and all that processing happens. And what we have seen is, of course, what you see in the chart, that we have a year-on-year significant improvement in our case deflections.
Great, and that's, I think, a good lesson learned, because Cadence is using the same search for their self-service as they are doing in their case submission. But as Ian pointed out, typically in the search on the portal, they're not using as much language, just more keywords, but they put quite a bit in their issue description. And I've seen some companies that even in their case submission, they use the case title instead of the description. So I think this is a testament to getting as much information from your customer and using that for your search. So definitely, if people are on and in your case submission flow, if you're just looking at the case title, definitely look at your entitled problem description, and that's going to help you out tremendously. So if we want to go into the next, just to give you a peek at Cadence homepage. So next slide there. So as you can see, it's very clean and simple, and they lead with search, and that's typically the number one reason why customers come to your site. But they also enable quick links to many other things. And so I really like if you look down, you can't see my arrow, but right underneath the search, you see the view history. So you can quickly go see the articles that you've recently viewed, and then you can favorite them. So you can show which ones you liked and make them as favorites, so that you can get insights into if there's any updates to those favorites and such, or if you want to quickly go back to it. So very, very clean. And while they try to make their site as intuitive as possible, they also have on the next site, next page, if you wouldn't mind, they have a very nice quick tour video. And so we see this as actually a key attribute of top support sites. And that's one of the, in fact, I can't recall a recent site where I haven't had a nice quick tour video. And so if you don't have that, if you're on and you don't have that, definitely recommend that you invest in that. And again, Cadence actually did a really nice job, very, very professional production. And going through it, I was able to quickly identify how I could tailor the site to my needs and how I can get the most advantage. And it really was just, I think, 4 minutes or so. So really encourage you to do that if you don't have that. And then they not only have search, but on the next slide, they have, oh, I'm sorry, on their search results. And when we see, you know, enterprise search is just a key, basically table stakes these days. And what they have is they have all of their content, all of their sources. So they have the knowledge articles, documentation. They have what's unique is they have all of their learning. And so they have their standard training courses, both online, well, online courses. But what they've done is they've taken those online courses and they've created micro learning, so more performance support. And so as they have those little snippets, they've invested a tremendous amount in these videos. And I think that's also helped their success. And that's when you look at their site, it is the learning and support portal. And I think that is definitely a very synergistic, that if you can leverage the, again, those little micro learnings from your online training and get that easily accessible from your search, as well as your navigation, I think that's a tremendous win. And then they definitely include communities, which is also critical. We see that customers, when they are having an issue, they will look at first searching for the knowledge or learning, then communities, and then finally a case. So Cadence has done a nice job. And so the filtering is very nice. The other thing that we see quite a bit is, so up at the top, you can look at all content, or you can pick the specific area. What we see most of the time, people will pick the just all, they'll put their search result, and then they'll do the facet refinement. And what's nice with Cadence, as we also saw with Automation Anywhere, they have the count next to it. This is configurable to, I think, every search engine, but I do go to some sites and they don't include that count. So having that full transparency is extremely valuable. And anything, Ion, you want to add to this?
No, I think you've covered it well. So the facets are really important for us, just so that, just for clarity, because they're just in our software portfolio, we have about 158 unique products, right, across 5 platforms. So and many of the technical terms span across multiple product areas, right? So while we have a lot of machine learning and context building on a per user basis, it is still important that once you do a search and you do get some results, you have the ability to filter, because sometimes the filters might look a little overwhelming. So it's important to understand it in that context.
Great. And then on the next slide, so what we find is customers would like to both have search and navigation options. So when I mentioned earlier that often we see when they come to a site, they have 3 main tasks. They want to either resolve an issue, learn how to best use a product or feature, or research a product. And so that's typically the three main tasks. And when there's been studies that have asked customers, when you have, for example, when you're resolving an issue, would you like to search or navigate? And predominantly they say, I'd like to search when it comes to an issue. But when you want to learn how to use a product or feature, what we found is it's roughly half and half, search versus navigation. And then when you want to research a product, it's mainly navigation. So having a product page to meet those needs for those users who are, even if they're resolving an issue, some do like to navigate, but for learning how to use a product, researching product, having these product pages is absolutely critical. And Cadence has really invested quite a bit into creating a very nice product page. So you can see here, they have the overview, the features, getting started, so kind of the different phases that, as we talked about, all the incorporated training, but then they have their troubleshooting, their FAQs, as well as their how-tos. So everything is accessible from here, so people can navigate, and they have some nice filtering in here about what specific tasks they're trying to perform. So, and we see this is one of the things that several years back, product pages were not widespread when we were looking at top support sites, but I think now, fortunately, the majority of sites have a product page. So would encourage people, if you don't have that product page, definitely look at investing in that. And again, this is what Cadence has done, is they've made it very dynamic. So there's not a lot of work. They certainly put a lot of work in designing it, but then dynamically fill these things. And anything else you'd like to add on this one, Ian?
No, again, covered well.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't think that there's anything else to add on this.
Okay. All right, then the next slide.
Yeah.
So we've talked quite a bit that knowledge is the key enabler, and Cadence has leveraged KCS, but they've customized it to their specific audience. So briefly, I think most on this call are familiar with KCS, but what we're looking for them to do in the solve loop is to capture in the customer context in a very structured fashion. And then ideally, you're searching through that, you're searching and searching often, and you're reusing existing knowledge. And one of the key things to do when you're reusing that existing knowledge, you can think of it as a defect, if you will, that your customers were not able to find it. They had to log a case. So we look for the engineers to look for ways that they can improve that. So you might have had a great knowledge article on how to change a battery, but the customer was typing in, my car won't start. So putting that customer context in there is absolutely key. And then when we talk about improve, it's either to improve an existing article or improve the knowledge base by creating an article. And if you actually just hit a button, I have an overlay on this. One of the things that Cadence did, which is, if you want to hit for the next slide, it'll come up with they have a terminology. So their program, they talk about, for their solve loop, RIC. So reuse, improve, and create. And thought that resonated quite well, where you want it very simple for your agents. And so the thought that have them search and search often and reuse existing knowledge, and they enforce that they link that knowledge to the case, but then focus on improve, because we do see a lot of companies that will find the knowledge, they link it to the case, but then they don't improve that knowledge. And so with Cadence focus on bringing out that improve as a key task for the users is quite nice to see. And then certainly create. So if there is a knowledge gap, you've trusted the agent to provide that customer with the solution, trust them to get in the knowledge base and get it in as quickly as possible. So it was really nice to see them leveraging KCS, but again, adapting it to their environment and what resonates with them. And then they do have on the Evolve loop, it was great to see through the essay, all the work they do on the content health And so they have a content standard that they'll evaluate against, and they're constantly looking. One of the things that was really nice to see is Cadence will look at what are the articles that are most liked, and they're constantly taking that feedback and updating that standard that all articles should be leveraged against. And then they do look at that process integration for the reuse, the improve, the create, essentially that solve loop. Are they doing it correctly? And that performance assessment, it was really nice to see all of the things that they look at behind the scenes. So they'll be looking at the searches with no results. They'll look at the ranking, the click-through, a variety of things. They also, as we talked about earlier, time to publish is so critical. And that's a key one that they look at. And then one of the things that really stood out for Cadence is that leadership and communication. What we find when people are deploying KCS, some get the solve loop well and they get their coaches and their KDs, but their leadership and the communication isn't as strong as it should be. And we see really leadership and communication are so key, and kind of establishing that knowledge sharing culture is so key. And would you like to share some of the things that you've done to establish that very vibrant knowledge sharing culture?
Yes, sure. So, I think I would explain this in a more holistic kind of a way, right? Just to bring in how it works. So, I think over years we have collectively worked very hard to build in a culture of knowledge, right? People understand that why knowledge is critical, why they need to create, and why it's a process of the continuously improve and update as time goes on, right? So we have both a reactive and a proactive process. On the proactive side of things, what we do is when a product is getting developed or a new version is coming out, there is a whole lot of algorithms and stuff that goes in to identify areas where we potentially see customer needing information, right? And then depending on the outcomes, we will create all levels of information from conceptual to full tutorials to specific troubleshooting articles or how-tos and stuff like that, right? And then publish that at the time of. So when you go to that product page that you were showing a bit while ago, you would be, if it's a new product at one that from one place, you will basically get to see the entire spectrum of how to use that product in various ways, right? Of course, the same thing is available through search, etc. as well. On the reactive side, as you already explained, every time a case comes in, it is evaluated for whether an existing knowledge article would have solved it. If it did, did the customer not find? If not, what needs to happen to improve the findability and so on and so forth. If there is something which is related but not exactly matching, then there's place for improvement. And then we also continuously managed evaluate our knowledge health. Every piece of article has a particular expiry date, which is reviewed. So typically 2 years, but it can be earlier. When a new release comes out, again, a lot of articles are reviewed for up-to-dateness. So all that is part of the larger process that we have. And then there is this secondary thing where, we have this knowledge awards program where we, depending on how the piece of content has impacted our business, we give out both monetary as well as titles to people who contribute significantly to knowledge. So that is all there. Very interestingly, we also, again, from a human perspective, what we find is that, any creation is, when you write an article or anything, that's a creative pursuit, right? So we also do a lot of sharing of who is reading your knowledge and what is their feedback and, what's the impact it's making to the business. So what we have found is, outside of MBOs and all that, or asking people to do the right thing, the fact that we have real-time ability to inform people of the impact their knowledge is making, right, and real-time feedback from the market is also a great enabler for people's motivation to do the right thing.
That's great. And one of the things that they shared with me on that feedback, oftentimes we see companies will share with the author, here's how many views that your your article achieved in self-service. Here's how many links it was from your fellow agents, how many likes you get, etc. They take a step further, Cadence does, and they'll actually share, because this is a logged in site, they'll actually share the customers who are leveraging the knowledge to make it even more personal. So I think their knowledge celebration is absolutely key, and that's communicated by their leaders. They have newsletters, they have all sorts of things to really drive that that knowledge sharing culture. And so that just was overwhelming, and you could tell by going through their site how current their knowledge was, and certainly their self-service success and their deflection numbers definitely showed that. And then talk about, if we go to the next slide, one of the things that they do very nicely is they have the document feedback. And this is a unique one that I saw. You know, often we see, was this helpful or not? And they actually broke it out. Again, given this is a learning and support portal, they looked at, asked, did this document help in learning? Did it resolve my query, or does it need review? And that was really nice to see, because again, what we see is people are going to either resolve their issue or learn how to best use a product or feature. And so getting that feedback that, yeah, it did help in the learning, or it did resolve my query, or again, it needs review. And then if you click one more click on, one of the nice things that they do here is they give the customer the opportunity to provide feedback and to provide those comments. And so what they'll do is they have that comments box for all, whether it needs review or it resolved my query or helped in learning. We do see some sites that they only pop up the comment box if it needs review. And that's a big, big missed opportunity, because what you find is when they click on the helped in learning or resolved my query, you often get many kudos that the customer was just delighted that they were able to resolve their issue or learn how to best use a feature or such. And in Cadence's knowledge sharing culture, then they'll share those with the author and the management. And so we really find that if you do have a celebration of, you know, when your customers are using that and getting success from it, that goes a long way. So I do, again, see many sites that just have the comments box when it actually needs review or wasn't helpful. So would encourage you to put that comments box for when it was successful, and again, share those kudos. And so Cadence has a really nice process for doing that. And then the other thing that they do is when it does need review, they actually have a nice tracking system in place. So when they get any comments, they really work to turn that around as quickly as possible, and they monitor that to make sure that they are doing that. And as we've seen with many companies sharing their process, what we've found is that companies that turn around that feedback very quickly get much more feedback from their customers, because customers want to improve your knowledge base. And if you are listening and you're acting upon that very quickly, they're going to give you much more feedback. And then one on the next slide, what they've done, we've often see that customer feedback, you know, isn't we don't get a tremendous, companies don't get a tremendous amount of it. So what Cadence has done is they've taken the opportunity to have, certainly on the standard on the bottom of the page, they have the ability that we just saw, but then kind of a live area that always is there is the ability to provide feedback. Again, these same questions and comments, and then they can submit feedback. And then they give exposure to how many people have provided positive feedback, as well as the number of views. So a really nice transparency there. And again, would encourage you to, if you don't have that feedback in place, to get the, you know, those comments and, you know, to track that. That's definitely a key one to look at. And then one of the things that we'd like to, again, I'm giving you more, Ian and I are giving you more behind the scenes, but on the next slide, one of the things that is so critical is how a company implements and tracks improvements. And so would you mind going through this for the audience?
Yeah, sure. So, so I'll just summarize this, right? So, because we have this culture of content, right? And then therefore, one of the things that we do, is a lot of data collection, data analytics, and analysis of how our knowledge and website is doing, right? So, for example, in the feedback that that got discussed earlier, right? If the feedback is on the website itself, there is a team that will respond within 24 hours back to the requester, and depending on what the feedback is and what we can realistically do or do not, tend to close that conversation with the customer, so they know that it's been heard, and some action will likely be taken on that. If it is a knowledge feedback, there is a whole automated workflow that comes in depending on type of feedback that comes in, goes to the author, it's updated, close to the customer, and so on and so forth, right? Now, all this data, how things are being done, etc., is also regularly reviewed at multiple levels, right? With reporting going back all the way up to our top management on how things are being done. We have very strong business objectives in terms of, on how we want to increase and improve on our content, on our accessibility, on how many people are coming in, how many new users we want on our systems, and so on and so forth.
Great. All right. Well, thank you. And Al, that was what we'd like to cover with your audience. If we want to open it up for questions.
So I'll stop sharing for now then.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
And Al, there you go.
I'm back. This would be a good time to send in your questions. You can either put them in chat or in Q&A, and either Paul or I will pick them up and relay them to Arthan and Ayan. So, by the way, Arthan, you mentioned about seeing all the wonderful world-class sites, but what you didn't mention is that judges also see some pretty bad sites.
This is true. And what is nice though is I think even in the bad sites, they are doing some good things, and we as judges call out what they're doing well. But then that's our opportunity, because we're judging to really help. And so we'll put quite a few improvement suggestions in there. And so I think that's a really, really big benefit of the ASP awards, the ASP submission, is to get that feedback. So even if you don't think you have a top site, getting the feedback from 5 judges on, hey, you're doing these things well, but you can improve these areas, you can add this functionality, et cetera, this back-end process and such. And so the judges are really good about calling those things out, and in a very tactful way, just here are some recommended improvements, because that's, as we heard from Automation Anywhere, and the same in my discussions with Cadence, they're looking for these improvements from others, and really take that into strong consideration when they're doing the roadmaps.
Yeah, I would say, in fact, that if you know you have a bad site, please submit it, because it's a very inexpensive way to get critical outside feedback. And one of the things we ask the judges to comment on is to say, what are the 3 most important things that the site should have improved? So, because if you say you have a not very good site, or you're just starting out, where do you start? What are the priorities? You can't fix everything all at once. You can't make everything better all at once. You've got to set some priorities. You have to decide where to deploy your resources. And I think the judges' comments on the 3 most important things are critically important for all these people, including the world-class sites, but particularly for the sites that are struggling to know where to start and what's absolutely critical to get fixed.
And one of the other nice things that Al does in the reports that you get back is not only here are the top improvement areas, but you can see in every section how you were rated and how you compare to the average of the submission. So you can see where you're doing well and where you need quite a bit of improvement. And then again, the suggestions often align to those improvement opportunities.
So we are starting to get some questions now. So here's the first one. Are there any qualities deficiencies that are a kiss of death for the award? Where you expect that the site definitely has that feature? Einstein, I guess that's for you because you're the judge. Any qualities or deficiencies that are a kiss of death for the award?
So certainly, as we talked about earlier, and as we saw with Cadence here, having a customer focus, having it very simple to use. If we can't go in, and Phil kind of was alluding to this in his talk also, that we want to go in and be able to quickly accomplish our tasks. And if we see that it's very hard to use, and even worse, if you have to jump to many other sites in your company, and that's definitely a kiss of death. We, as Cadence showed in theirs, they want to kind of hide all the underlying complexity of how Cadence works and how they work together. And so we do see on some sites that there's not a single login, single sign-on, and you have to jump. There's a lot of dead ends. And so you really have to get to have the most success with their self-service. You really have to understand how they're organized, the company is organized, and you go through much more effort in getting your issue resolved. And customers are looking for getting their issue resolved as quickly as possible with the least amount of effort. So when we see those sites that aren't well structured for the customer and just have a lot of silos, I think that's the big kiss of death.
Yeah, in general, just another way of saying kind of the same thing, but different slant on it is that 5 years ago, we changed the scoring system and we put more weight on. So not all the different areas there are 22 areas that are looked at. They're in groupings of typically 3, 4, 5 in each grouping. And the highest weighted grouping is on customer experience. It's the first thing that we ask our judges to score. They look at things like, how do you get into the site? Do you get access to stuff through Google? And actually, Arnfinn, what you mentioned, customer effort is a big deal. I mean, for those that are putting call diversion ahead of customer effort score, you probably got it backwards. Customer effort score today, and things have changed over the years, customer effort score is a critical issue. So you don't want customers, but customers don't want to work too hard to get the answer to their question or to get their problem solved. And if you make them go through too many hoops or over too many hoops, they're going to punish you. You're going to get bad ratings. And worst of all, you may not get renewed subscriptions to your product. So I say if there's a kiss of death, probably having it just be too difficult. And so people want to give up, or they're just, they feel like they've been punished for having a question or a problem. You don't want to have that occur. That not only the kiss of death for our award, that's a kiss of death for your business, which is why it's reflected in our awards that way.
Yeah, and as you pointed out in your annual report, we're seeing more and more customers more and more vendors, companies are looking at that customer effort score. And that was one of the things that was pleasant to see with Cadence, is they really look at not only their success, but they have the customer effort score, satisfaction, et cetera.
Yeah, okay.
We had another question. Is your daily Scrum call, in your daily Scrum call, who joins those from a responsibility or roles perspective? So you want to take that one?
Yeah. So this depends, right? So for example, what we do is we in the team that I manage, we have a daily meeting for about 20-25 minutes where we discuss anything that came up in the last 24 hours that needs specific looking in or additional updates. Then with the development teams, it's not daily, but it's on a weekly or a as need basis kind of things, specific requirements and those kind of things. For the knowledge content and all that, we have the knowledge team, which again meets with specific business units, authoring teams and all that on their specific set of schedules. So depending on what we are trying to solve and how we are trying to solve, and who the stakeholders are, we have different meetings with different people at different times.
Okay, any more
And
questions?
I just wanted to add one point to that customer effort score, right? Because this is something, I mean, we didn't call it a customer effort score, but we just use two fundamental parameters in solving this, right? First is if I'm going to use this website, or for that matter, any website, right? What is it that I like and I do not like, right? So what I do not like to do myself when I am a consumer, we are very careful to ensure that we don't create that problem for my consumers in our website. This is one, right? Second is in terms of keeping a metric. Now, again, that's a very subjective statement. So in terms of keeping a metric, what we try to do is anything should be available ideally in a first click or at most 2 to 3 clicks. So that is why you will find, that's why we have the search first thing, right? Everything in our website is searched. In fact, our entire website is almost built on top of search engine, right? Even the list of content, etc., that you see, this is basically customized search pages, result pages. So we and simply because our industry is complicated, our customers, by the time they come to us looking for help, they are in some significant time constraints in terms of how quickly they can turn their chips out and stuff like that, right? So the last thing they really want to do is struggle with a support website to see, how to find the answer they're looking for, right? So that's there.
Yeah, it was really nice in reading and talking to Ion about they use the customer journey mapping quite a bit, and they use some machine learning to really identify their opportunity areas and provide identify what fixes need to be done. So the big focus on the customer and reducing that effort.
Our friend Francois Tournier is probably cheering right now because you mentioned journey mapping. It's one of her critical things that she likes to do. So we have time for 1 or 2 more questions if anybody wants to put them into chat or Q&A.
And while we're waiting, would just like to say it was a pleasure going through Cadence's site because they do so many things well. And again, not only a pleasure looking through the site, but their essay. They did a really nice job on calling out their strategy, their goals, and how they drive continuous improvement. And so they do so many things behind the scenes. And that's one of the reasons that I didn't want to just go through the demo. Because I think it's really important to execute well all those behind the scenes activities. So there's a lot of best practices that Cadence was doing that we wanted to share.
And thank you for the great report as well, because in fact, we have about a 82 parameter checklist on which we measure everything, every part of our website, right, in terms of the functionality, form, everything else, right? So a lot of the stuff that we had identified are things that needs work, right, is essentially also kind of got reaffirmed in the feedback that we got. So that way, to what Al, you were saying earlier, that it's a really great way of getting an understanding of, what's working in your website and what's not working in your website, right, as a starting point, and then things where you want to really focus on is a key win. Right. So that's a really useful input for us.
Well, thank you for that feedback. I appreciate it. I'll also kind of jump on to Arnfinn's comments about the essay, and while it is not something that's likely to get you, it's not the kiss of death, but I think some companies miss out on extra points and a more effective judging, good and bad, when they don't do a good job of explaining themselves in their entry form or in their essay. Cadence particular case, you do have a complicated product, and that's why the people that you have in support are, have masters and, advanced degrees, because they, and I've had that. I used to work for a computer company, a scientific computer company, where we had, in some cases, had to have PhDs to be able to talk to our customers who were scientists. I mean, the average typical support engineer doesn't know how to talk to a scientist in their language. So, that's what you have to do to support certain customer bases. but our judges are not selected on that basis. So they wander into these sites. They've been randomly selected. They need to have it explained. What are you doing? Who are your users? What are you trying to do for them? So, you guys did a great job of explaining what is a lot of complexity, and you did a great job in your site, as Arfin said, of kind of hiding the complexities, behind everything. You don't really need to show everybody how it all works. You just have to make sure that it works easily and works well, which is exactly what you have done. So congratulations again. I think your award is very greatly deserved. And Arnfinn, I think you did a great job of representing the other 4 judges and all of our judges in walking people through a site that is a beauty to behold.
Hey, well, it was a pleasure.
Okay, so let's queue up for the next one. So if you two would take down your cameras and mics.